The Padres Hot Tub is a podcast, but it is a community-supported podcast, and you can support us at patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub. I wanted to highlight this week some different ways in which that comment that I make every week is true. We're not just a podcast, we're a community. I wanted to highlight the marketplace aspects of what we have on our Discord. Which is available to everybody who is a patron at the lowest level or the highest level at patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub. For example, the ticket marketplace. Over the course of the last Padres homestand, multiple times I saw patrons say, hey, I had tickets for today's game. I had them posted for sale, but I'd rather give them to a patron who wants them. Come get them. Just about every homestand, I do that personally with my tickets. Hey, who wants these tickets? Come and get them. Go get them if you want them. But it goes beyond tickets. Baseball cards are traded. Baseball card breaks take place. Meetups are happening in other cities, both in LA County and beyond, that are organized on our Patreon. Golf meetups, twosomes, foursomes are happening in the Golf Channel of our Patreon. This is happening, guys, all the time, where our community is forging connections just by supporting this particular show and what we're doing.
Yeah, we got a couple of series that are coming up against the Dodgers, one in San Diego and one in Los Angeles. I know I'll certainly be going to one of those games here in LA, and perhaps the community will be getting together for some watch parties when the team is down in San Diego, avoiding those MLB blackouts. Thank you again, Rob Manfred. And I mean, I have a big red circle around June 21st because the three of us will be going to the Padres Hot Tub Suite game, which is becoming something of an annual tradition for this community. And it is just a great way for us all to connect and stay in touch in person one day when we're staying in touch online 365 days a year. So I love this community.
Come join a group that's almost 600 strong. Patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub. Welcome to Padres Hot Tub, everybody. Craig Elsten, Chris Reed, Raphie Cantor. We're here. It's June 1st. May is in the rearview mirror. And for the most part, thank goodness. It wasn't the greatest month of Padres baseball. There were actually some good stretches in it. Might surprise you, the Padres had a winning record in the month of May. 16-13. Believe it. It's true. In a month that they had a 6-game losing streak, they finished with a winning record. Guys, we've got plenty to talk about. The conclusion of a homestand, the beginning of, hey, the real season starts now, guys. You had your fun and games. Now it's going to be my turn. I'm going to be in charge now. I'm the captain now, bitch. Here comes the Giants. Yeah, tough stretch ahead. Potentially, we lost our dairy bonds to a wall-related incident. There's a lot to discuss, is all I'm saying. Yeah. How are you gentlemen today?
Doing a lot better after the boys launch a little bit of a comeback there in a game that was starting to feel a little all too familiar with the lack of offense. Padres find the big inning late in the game and pull out a W, get to go to the victory formation with a few of the horsemen. So that felt really good, doing much better with that, Craig.
Yeah, this was a much-win game that the Padres were able to pull out because, as we were going to be talking about, the gauntlet has begun. We are in the midst of a stretch of 26 games in 27 days, and there will be no rest for the weary on this stretch. And the Padres are, I'm assuming, probably somewhere over Monterey Bay or perhaps over the Central Valley, as they're flying into San Francisco for a critical 4-game set. But this is from a pure vibes gut check. I remember like 2022, 2023 when like the economy on paper was doing great, but everyone was like, I feel terrible about the economy. And like that's really kind of how I feel about the Padres, where I've been like this like last 3 series, since they left interleague play, and they're like they played the Braves and the Marlins and the Pirates, and I'm like I feel terrible about this team, but they went 6-3 in that stretch. I'm just like you had told me they were gonna go 6-3, and that's okay, great, yes, absolutely, I will take that. So trying to make sense of the team over the course of this episode, Craig.
And that's exactly what we're going to do. Because you talked about it, let's start just with Sunday's game. Sunday's game really encapsulates. What?
I got a lot of people to thank, Craig. Can't start.
Hang on.
I
You're
got
right.
a lot
Oh
of
my
folks
gosh. Here we go. You're right.
No,
we got 2
these
housekeeping
folks
bits,
have
and I was
signed up.
just like I do in my own house. I was waiting to skip the housekeeping and get to the baseball. Doesn't work out for me here either. So let's start by thanking new patrons, Chris.
These are actually got a couple of upgrades in here, and if you hear your name, you know what it is. But definitely want to send you a big thank you. You keep the show going. You keep the show going. Joe, you keep the show going. Ben, Jacob, Peter, MP, Dylan, Justin, Lucia, feeling kind of slow, Miguel, Spencer, and OS Perez. Thank you guys very much for supporting Padres Hot Tub. I hope you are enjoying the Discord and all the added benefits that comes with your support.
And very last thing, anyone who's on the free feed or anyone who's on our patron feed, if you could do us the favor of a rate and review, giving us a 5-star rating, writing a kind written review, boosting those numbers, it does help the algorithm. It does help us get to more people. More listeners equals more patrons equals more Padres Hot Tub for everybody. So thanks to all of you. And now, without any further ado, let's start with Sunday's game, because it does feel like an encapsulation of what's been going on. The Padres start off shaky. They get a solo homer, which has actually been kind of a part of this whole with the offense struggling thing. It's like, 1-0. Here we go. Oh, by the way, we're not going to do anything else for a while. Settled in. Andrew Heaney pitches well. Randy Vasquez does not pitch well. Defense is somewhat calamitous. 4-1 is the deficit. Padres aren't looking good at the plate. And then a comeback, right? 1 run and then 4 runs to go from 4-2 down to 6-4 up. 6-4 is the final. The first detail I'd like to highlight from this game, gentlemen, is that the game-winning rally was predicated by walks, and by walks to players who haven't been necessarily walking during this tough stretch. And in particular, I'd like to highlight Fernando Tatis, who just had the worst month of his career. June has historically been the best month of his career year over year, and he's still scuffling. He's not seeing the ball well. His timing is off. It's not going right for Fernando Tatis Jr. But one thing he talks about all the time is doing what the game tells you to do. And today, with 2 runners on and 1 out, the game told him to walk. And he didn't get froggy. He didn't chase pitches that I've seen him chase. And all it takes for a struggling pitcher is to have ball 2 turn into strike 1 because you swung over the top of it. And instead of 2-0, it's 1-1. All of a sudden, you're a new man. You refined your mechanics. You become a different pitcher. Fernando didn't let that happen. And walks were a huge part of that rally today.
And he saw nothing but sliders that at bat, and he didn't chase a single one. 4 not very competitive ones, but 4 pitches that he has chased at times. So a very valid point, and hopefully that it leads to him getting on base a little bit more. I'll be releasing a video about Tatis coming out. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Will it be fun, Chris?
Yeah, because you get to watch a lot of Fernando Tatis, and he's an entertaining guy. And this has been a rough stretch for him. But what I have kind of taken away, I was kind of panicking in his inconsistent approach, and kind of like how his timing's been off and his mechanics have been weird. and he's been trying a lot of stuff this year. And one thing that I've been kind of reassured by is this is absolutely a common theme throughout this dude's career. Like
Yeah.
Manny Machado has had almost the exact same stance for like 8-9 years, whereas Nando has had just the biggest swath of swings, approaches. So he's a guy who is always in the workshop. He never leaves his baseball workshop. So yeah, I mean, I really feel like brighter days are ahead, and I've been a little despondent watching our guy struggle.
So I thought it was an interesting sort of mirroring today with the 4 walks coming in the 7th inning, because one of the narratives as I'm watching the games, especially the Sunday games, because we usually record after them, I've got my little game notes, and just like any writer who would be in the press box, like they're changing as the game goes on, as I'm trying to figure out what my narrative's going to be. And for all of 2025 so far, it's been Strandy Vasquez, right? It's he's walking these guys, they're not leading to runs, like whatever. And of course, in the 3rd inning, Strandy gets bitten. He walks O'Neal Cruz and then gives up a tank to Andrew McCutchen. And I thought, okay, that is interesting. That is, again, the power of walking. Guys giving you free passes, you're taking advantage of that. That is sort of the walk to home run combo is something that I think this team has been wanting for quite a bit this year, because they haven't been walking as much and they haven't been slugging as much, something we've talked about constantly. So to then turn around, and there was a lot of things that happened in that 7th inning that I thought were quite interesting and different from what we've seen. So of course, Xander Bogaerts leads off that inning with a walk. Xander, I don't think has been, terribly walk anemic, so to speak. Like he's been walking a fine amount. But then Elias Diaz comes up in that inning to knock in the first run. After I think Jose Iglesias also walked, correct?
Correct.
And Elias Diaz comes in to pinch hit for Martin Maldonado. It's something he's done a number of times this year. And I wanted to ask you guys, how many hits going into today, Elias Diaz, Craig already knows, so you're disqualified, recuse yourself. Chris, going into today,
yes.
Elias Diaz has pinch hit for Martin Maldonado numerous times. How many hits did he have as a pinch hitter going into today?
I'm going to guess he has a sub 100 batting average. How many times has he pinch hit for him?
Oh, that's a good question.
A bunch.
I'm trying to
just say a bunch.
We're just going to say,
of the discussion.
Technically, we're going to say a bunch. Handy.
All right, so let's say that number is 20. I'm going to say 2.
Okay, so going into today, he had 0 hits as a pinch hitter.
No.
Which I was driving when I was listening to Jesse and Bob Scanlon, who is a tough hang on the radio. It's just so worth saying. Anyway, but Jesse was great.
1 for 13 now. Yeah, with that hit, he was 0 for 12. So now he's 1 for 13.
He was 0 for 12. So now he's 1 for 13. And when I literally guffawed out loud to myself when I heard that, because again, it's like 12 times. He's already done it, and every time it has worked literally 0 times every time. But for some reason, but it's always the right call when he does it, like, which is right. A monument to this, the obvious flaws in this team. And so Diaz coming up, delivering that breakthrough, really felt categorical of, if this team is going to work what it needs. Another thing, Tatis walking, as you also said, the team is constructed for Tatis to get on base because he's the leadoff guy, and Arraez to knock him over, maybe a first to third or maybe an extra base hit. And so Arraez to come up after Tatis and to get a base hit. That is the way this team is constructed to operate. So the team was actually working kind of as planned today in a way that they really haven't been in May, in a way that I'll talk about a little bit more in depth later in the show. But and you can see the results. They scored 6 runs. So hopefully improvement to come further in June, Craig.
Yeah, I think looking at the Padres' offensive struggles in May, I believe you can boil it down pretty simply as follows. Fernando Tatis Jr. had the worst month of his career. He hit under 200 with an OPS of just over 600. Luis Ariz went on a long batting slump during this month, and Jackson Merrill went 2 for 27 at one point during this month. When those guys don't hit, the Padres aren't going to score unless Gavin Sheets or Manny Machado hits a homer, or maybe Jake. And literally, you can go back through the game logs and find how the Padres scored runs during that dearth, and it was Gavin Sheets driving in runs, or maybe Jake or Manny. That was it. So you unplug those key hitters for this team, the team is going to struggle offensively. And the team did struggle offensively for a good portion of the second half of the month of May. At the beginning of the month of May, they were okay. They went 10-4 to start the month, and then they lost 6 in a row, and they scored 8 runs in those 6 games, and then they started to turn it around and get it going a little bit once they got back to the National League East, at least. But definitely some real rough patches in the month. By the way, you called it, one of our favorite phrases, a much-win game today, and it absolutely was. This show is so different if the Padres give up more runs. So big shout out, Wandy Peralta, 5 outs today. David Morgan, 5 outs today. No runs allowed. Those dudes right there, if they give up 4, 5, 6 runs, which they could, game's over. Padres lose the series. We'd have been talking about a real truth, which is that the Pirates deserve to sweep the series because Friday's game was ripped from their hands by the home plate umpire in the bottom of the 8th inning when Henry Davis was called out on a clearly ball and a half low full count pitch that should have tied the game, and instead they ended the inning on it. It's got to be one of the biggest umpire bad call win probability reversal swings of the year. Like literally going to be the game tied, blow that call. Nope, the inning's over. Inning's over. We're on to the 9th, clean sheet. 3-2 lead for San Diego. So, that was a huge break. The Padres caught a huge break in Atlanta. The Padres caught breaks against the Marlins with a kid making 4 errors in 5 innings. Like, they have not been distinguishing themselves completely on the baseball field the last couple of weeks, but I want to couch it a slightly different way to toss the ball back to you guys over the net here. Kind of so what? Tomorrow can be a different day. The Padres can play better tomorrow. Nothing lasts forever in this stupid game of baseball. So the Padres playing poorly and winning 6 of 9 is good because you won 6 of 9. Who gives a fuck how you played? You won. You won the games. Now, if you lose 3 games in a row, you're 6-6 in your last 12. You're not, some terrible losing record. You've built in a little bit of cushion by doing things this way. God forbid you start playing well. Then what happens? Team might go on an absolute tear and be fighting for the best record in the league. So, there's certainly areas of concern. Injury, first and foremost, rotation, and now DH. But as I toss it back to you again, from much win, this game became must win for me. The absolute must win in the bottom of the 8th inning. Do you know why, Raphie?
Tell me.
Did you hear today's attendance?
I'm assuming it was a sellout.
Today's attendance, official attendance at Petco Park, 42,069. Yes, let me spell it out. Today's attendance was 420,69. 420,69. If the Padres lose a game where the attendance at Petco Park is 420,69, they are officially forced to fold the franchise. It's in the bylaws. So thank God, must win game today, and the Padres came through.
I mean, when you use that criteria, Craig, absolutely 100%.
Is this the first 420-69 game in franchise history?
Oh gosh, get on StatHead right this.
I'm going on
friggin'
StatHead
second.
right now.
Yeah.
Just keep the show cooking. I'll just be in the background tinkering.
That we don't need to, but it's the most important one in the club's history for sure.
Immaculate vibes secured today. We are the franchise that wins when it's 42069.
That's the way to
all
start
right?
off June, baby. That's the way to start off Pride Month. 1-0 on 42069.
Let's go. Let's go. Yeah, that was critically important. All right. I see in here in our rundown lineup talk, bunt talk. Okay, lineup talk. We need a catcher, we need a left fielder. What else?
I just want to point out I was able to do this so fast from StatHead. So this is actually not the first 42069 game in franchise history. Okay. The first
What?
420 the first 42069 game, I cannot believe this, took place on the 4th of July in 2009, where the Padres hosted the Dodgers. Anyone want to guess what the result of that game was?
9-6 Padres.
No. It was a Padres win. The Padres won 7-4 on Saturday, July 4th, 2009, on the back of a 3 RBI game from Everett Cabrera out of the leadoff spot.
Of course.
Right behind him in the 2 spot with 2 RBI, David Eckstein.
Let's go, Little Eck.
Let's go, Little Eck, indeed. Adrian Gonzalez had 2 hits and a ribby. So, I mean,
goodness.
Incredible days.
They
yeah,
won
not a
on
good
7-4 by 7-4. 42069 saw it, and today is 6-1.
Yeah.
So
And Everett Cabrera, Mr. 420, is a key player, and David Eckstein, who in some circles is referred to as Mr. 69, he comes through as well. Very impressive.
Very impressive. Anyway, so the Padres are now 2-0 in franchise history on 42069 attendance games.
they've got to cap it at that going forward, so that they, you can't be
that they win forever.
Yeah, why isn't that capacity? That should be the capacity at Petco Park.
Because Elon Musk didn't build a stadium.
That's right.
Okay. Let's talk about lineup construction, because I think we often talk about like Jackson Merrill should hit it in the 2-hole, or like, where's Gavin Sheets hitting, or like whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I just think it's fun to talk about why in like a quick way. And I would love to, Craig, if you'll humor me for this, there's an old school way of setting the lineup, right? Like there's a traditional sort of like, 20, 30 years
Ricky
ago.
Henderson bats first.
So
thank God.
I'm going to go through each lineup spot, and Craig, I want you to tell me the old school who you'd put there if this were 1991 and you were making your ideal lineup. And then I'll tell you what Tom Tango, who is famous sabermetrician, would say is the person you should put there. So batting leadoff, what type of player are you putting leadoff?
Well, not me. You're saying a 90s manager, like the
a 90s
old
manager.
school.
Yes.
Bob Brenly.
If Whitey Herzog was filling out the lineup, I think Arise would lead off. As a line drive spray hitter, because we would not be described as having a prototypical leadoff man.
Who is that prototypical leadoff guy though in old school thinking though?
Oh, Brett Butler. Ricky Henderson or Brett Butler is the prototypical leadoff man. Somebody who's going to get on base and steal. In the 80s, it could even have been Vince Coleman, or we could name some other low on base percentage, high speed guy, Gary Pettis, guys like that. Just your maximum stolen base threat. In which case it would be Tatis still leading off because he's your maximum stolen base threat.
Yes.
But you would never bat that much power lead off in the old days unless it was Ricky.
Right. So in modern days, what Tom Tango would say is that you want an incredibly high OBP guy batting first. Not necessarily your best hitter, although it could be, but you want high OBP. That's all that matters because you want to be setting the table. So that's why you see teams like the Phillies batting Kyle Schwarber in the leadoff spot, who never, prior to several years ago would have ever been considered a leadoff hitter ever by any team ever. He was too slow. That's all people would think about. In your 2-hole, what is Whitey Herzog? What kind of player is he batting there?
He's going to be batting the guy that can hit and run, that can bunt, sacrifice, hit and run. So on some level, that could be Luis Arraez, right? I mean, I said Arraez could be leading off, but I mean, he is a prototype. I'd say Mike Shildt, in that sense, is filling it out that way. Arraez is a classic hit and run, hit behind the hitter, could sacrifice himself. Your highest average guy is supposed to be third. And I guess Manny qualifies. And then your biggest power slugger is supposed to go fourth. Fifth is supposed to be a straight RBI man. Mm-hmm. Fifth is just a guy who just knocks in runs. Might hit 240 with an on-base percentage of 250, but dadgummit, he's going to knock in runs. And then you just line up your players in decreasing order of quality from 6 through 9.
Yeah, so
in any classic 80s lineup.
So in the kind of modern way of thinking for your 2-hitter, they should be your best hitter because they, over the course of a season, they will have as many plate appearances as your number 1 guy, but they're coming up with the chance to potentially knock in your high OBP guy who should be hitting leadoff. Okay. So that's the modern thought. The interesting place where modern thought really deviates from the old school thought is in the 3-hole, because the third spot, again, traditionally your high average hitter, that's who you would go. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. But in modern thinking, you have to imagine the situations in which the 3-hole is typically coming to the plate. And usually the 3-hole is coming to the plate with 2 outs and nobody on. So why would you want to have theoretically your best hitter or one of your best hitters hitting in the 3-hole when they are typically going with 2 outs and nobody on? That's a very low scoring percentage opportunity. And so that is where modern thinking would say Manny Machado should not be hitting in the 3-hole. And I'm not necessarily arguing that right now, but I just wanted to point that out in terms of why the Padres struggled mightily in May. Mightily. Because in May, Tatis had a 257 on base percentage. Luis Arraez had a 304 on base percentage. Manny Machado, on the other hand, I just had it in front of me. He had a 418 on base percentage. He was slugging 536. He had an OPS of 954 in the month of May. But he had it for nobody because nobody was on in front of him. And so
his content was firing off into space without being engaged because there was no one in front of him for him to drive in.
Yes. And just so to round out in terms of modern thinking, your 4th-hole hitter should be your cleanup hitter in the old school sense. That's actually where things merge. You want your highest power, and your 5-hole hitter should probably be your 2nd highest power guy. Not necessarily someone who's going to hit for prioritizing average, but the same thinking for the 4-hole hitter. There's someone who's going to be coming up with runners on. You want them to slug and potentially knock those runs in. And then the 6-hole hitter, this is one thing that I think is interesting, is where you would maybe put your stolen base threat. So your guy who would be a leadoff hitter in the 90s is probably hitting in your 6-hole. And the reason for that being that your 7 through 9 hitters are your worst hitters and are probably singles hitters. And so you want a guy who can get on and get over to potentially, if your 7, 8, 9 guys, run into a base hit, then you're scoring a run there. And so I bring all of that up because I think it's interesting because Xander Bogaerts has been kind of hitting in the 6-hole and he has actually been stealing bases and is still perfect.
He's got 11 steals.
Yeah, 11 steals and has not been caught stealing yet, which I think is quite interesting. But as the Padres normalize at the top of the order, again, Jackson Merrill did not have a good necessarily month of May compared to what we might expect from him, and certainly compared to how he started off the season. And if he's going to be hitting in our 4-hole and like our slug is kind of tied to that spot in the lineup, well, that might also lead to some issues. So I think as we see the lineup normalize, what I will be looking into is what is our on base percentage from those top 2 spots in the order, and also what are the pitches per plate appearance? Because that's something that I think we've talked about anecdotally. That's something that our patron Heelan Cal messaged us about earlier this week, and I was looking into it. And so league average in terms of pitches per plate appearance is 3.87 pitches per plate appearance. The Padres as a whole are doing 3.77 pitches per plate appearances. That's the 4th lowest in the league. But specifically, Tatis on the season, 3.78 pitches per plate appearance, and Luis Arraez, 3.60. So you have 2 guys who are below average in terms of the amount of pitches per plate appearance in your 1-2 spots in the lineup. And so that feeling that Heelan Cal was messaging us about of like, doesn't it feel like Manny's coming to the plate with 2 outs and nobody on, and also the starting pitcher has thrown 6 pitches?
Right.
There's a reason for that. That's actually happening quite frequently.
With the rise, it's even more insane because he gives away that first pitch all too often, like so frequently that first pitch is just a gimme. So it's almost like he's really only seeing 2.3 or whatever, because the first one's automatically a take.
Yeah. So just to finish this conversation out, because this modern lineup construction theory, if you're wondering like what kind of effect it has on a team, the answer is not much, but also still a lot, which is that they estimate about 1 to 2 wins a year for an optimally constructed lineup versus not, which on the one hand, that's not a huge effect over 162 games, but on the other hand, that's 1 to 2 wins you're leaving on the table, theoretically, by not constructing your lineup correctly. So some of this is by the virtue of the fact that our 1 and 2 hitters were doo-doo this month, and when they get better, which they inevitably will, they'll start scoring more. But it's just something to keep in mind when, we are talking about who should be hitting where. This is the why behind that.
Yeah. And I mean, the strat cards we talked about it before, where you'd probably lead off Cronenworth because he just has purely the highest on base percentage, other than a Machado. And another guy you'd think about leading off is disgustingly Bogarts, because he's walking and he's stealing, but
100%.
in real life, you're not going to lead off either one of those guys, and it wouldn't make a lot of sense to lead off either one of those guys. So what I see, honestly, is a lineup that's been built around certain principles that when they stray from those principles, they usually stray in a particular direction. So whereas the 2023 Padres offense and 2022 as well, those offenses were built on taking pitches, drawing walks, hitting homers, and that's how we're going to score. Very, very classic Moneyball. We're going to walk. Padres were one of the top teams 2020, 2021, 2022, 23 in leading the league in walks, or getting close to the league, top 3 in walks. Seeing a lot of pitches, trying to get the starting pitcher out 100 pitches, in 4 or 5 innings, get to the bullpen, kind of a very classic grind them down offense. And at its nadir in 2023, when it strayed from its principles, it strayed in the sense of being a boring, lackluster, never come back, never get it done offense, right? Now, new regime, Schilt, Rodriguez, entire new hitting staff, new attack principle, line drives, opposite field, all field sitting, right? We're going to higher contact. We're going to sacrifice walks. We're now toward the bottom of the pack in walks, as opposed to being one of the top 5 teams in the league in walks. But we are also very low in strikeouts. So we're putting the ball in play. We're adding more deltas into the equation all the time because we're putting the ball in play, more opportunities for someone to screw up, more opportunities for Babbitt, joy to exist. And I'm being long-winded, but I wanted to get to this point. When this group with this identity strays from their principles, the way it shows up is an offense with first pitch groundouts, right? We're aggressive. We're looking for line. We're looking for contact. Okay, there's a pitch to contact. Because the key to this thing working is that you have that line drive approach, but you are fighting the pitcher to get the ball in the zone so that you get that good pitch to hit, and you don't give in and hit the pitcher's pitch and get out early in a count. Strike throwers kill this team because they get that doop, boop, strike one, and then this team loses their principle. Sometimes when they stray, in my opinion, they stray in the side of, we're never going to walk, we're going to ground out, and all of a sudden it's the fifth inning and the starter has, 51 pitches.
I think this conversation sounds entirely different if Fernando Tatis Jr.'s ground ball rate isn't at the lowest of his career, because he's getting the most at bats and he would be on base and he'd have more home runs and all be good. The fact is, you said it right at the beginning. Him and Arise sucked. And I don't think we need to go much more further into that. Great lineup talk, Raphie. I learned a lot, and you know what I have to say about the lineup. I'm not even going to say it. But Jackson Merrill hasn't been much better than the guys. So, better walk rate than Arise, though. I'll say that much. The thing that I'm the most sick of, guys, is the thing that we saw yesterday. We're facing a guy who walks a lot of batters in Bailey Falter. And in the post-game show Friday night, I had talked about Bailey Falter being a guy who's going to walk 3 to 4 guys. And you have to take advantage of that situation. You have to score a bunch of runs off of walks. What happens? Fernando Tatis Jr. does his job according to the lineups that you're talking about here, Raphie. High on base percentage. He walks. Padres are down 1-0. All of a sudden, they have the leadoff man on, and they're grooving. They're cruising. They bring up Luis Arise. Luis Arise, best contact hitter in baseball. And boys, you already know what he does. He lays down a bunt. He has now had 6 sacrifice bunt attempts on the year. That is twice more than he has ever done in his career. And I've seen a lot of online discourse about why it's not that bad. It absolutely is. Major League Baseball this year, 320 sacrifice bunt attempts. How many of those bunt attempts, boys, do you think led to a positive base out run added? Meaning it led to more runs than it wouldn't have if they would have given away that out. Again, 320 total events.
A quarter, maybe. So 80.
Great guess, Craig. 85. 85. So that was fantastic because modern ball.
I'm like crazy
an analytical. You are. You're very good at it. So this year, in the sample size across the league, we know it doesn't work most of the time. And for Luis Arise, it's even worse. In those 6 times, it has only led to a positive base out run added once. And that is when he got a single off of Ben Brown against Chicago. That's the one time it has worked out. 5 other times, it hasn't worked out at all. And yesterday, it took the win completely out of the sails of the Padres offense. Instead of having a potential big inning against a guy who walked the first hitter of the game, when you got your leadoff hitter on, Luis Arise gives away an out. Fernando Tatis Jr. goes to second base, but never comes home to score. So my frustration with the lineup and with the Padres is doing the easy things. Why are you doing something that is proven to lower your chances of winning the game? Of those events, 5 Luis Arise bunts lowered the winning probability of the game. Only 1 raised it marginally. Why are you doing things purposefully? Because sometimes you're going to bring in the reliever and he's going to give up the home run. Sometimes Manny Machado's not going to get the double play. Those aren't choices, though. The Padres are choosing, whether it be Luis Arise or Mike Schilt putting on the bunt sign, although I don't see that. Rein your boy in, Mike. Why are they purposely choosing to put them in a worse situation than they would if they just let Luis Arise swing? I can't believe we're still talking about it. He literally has twice as many sacrifice bunt attempts as the last time we did. They're doing nothing to change his situation. And I think yesterday it really put them on the wrong foot. I think it took away a lot of their momentum yesterday.
Look, I couldn't agree more. And I like Luis Ariz, and he is so frustrating as a player because we oscillate back and forth. And we talk about all the positives. He is a mixed bag. Okay, he's a mixed bag. Offensively, we've seen the absolute bottom version of Luis Ariz this year. And that bottom version will still get RBI singles for your team.
Like he did today.
But his protocols, his principles are so far off right now.
This is a new principle, though, dude. Yeah, this is brand new for him. He's never done this in his career. Like I said, his career high up until this year was 3. And he had both of the one last year with the Padres and one with the Marlins. Like, this is a new shitty protocol.
Well, and I wouldn't be surprised if at some point in spring training, when they asked, talked to him about batting second, if in that conversation, like, well, second, that means more chances for hitting runs or sacrifices or something, just kind of like saying it generically. And he took it to heart. He's like, well, I'm the number 2 hitter. If I bunt, Tatis is a superstar. Manny's a superstar. If I bunt over Tatis, Manny's going to drive him in. Honestly, this is an organizational failing because it's allowing a player's peccadillo to impact the team. I'm not even kidding. Luis Ariz should be fined $500 every single time he bunts with a runner at first base and nobody out. Like that, it should be a kangaroo court maximum fine offense. Like you can never do this, Luis. Never, ever, ever. Tatis is on first, nobody out. He's either going to steal or you're going to hit. That's it. No bunts.
He's the 2-hole hitter. Like I still cannot wrap my head around this. That the guy that's batting second for us is doing sack bunts. Like, never
the leadoff
ever,
games in the first inning.
Yes, I know. Crazy. Just really quick, guys, before we transition. Anyone want to guess what Jake Cronenworth's on base percentage is against right-handed hitters?
408 35.
Craig wins, but it's close. 416.
Price is right. Okay.
416. But even the closest to the stick. 416 with a 19% walk rate. I'm now obsessed with this, Craig. I'm now obsessed with Jake Cronenworth platoon leading off against righties. That sounds unbelievable.
Jake, get it on brand. Bump that up to 420 so we can be proud of you. I have one small correction, Craig, in our notes. Padres did not have a winning record this month. They had a 500 record. 13
Oh, 13, did they? Did I add it up wrong?
Yeah.
Let me go do it again.
I just don't want people to feel 3 games better than they should.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah,
okay,
sorry.
Here's May 2nd.
I have it on.
You know what? Okay. Yep. I started on April 29th.
Yeah. That's not May.
I took 2 San Francisco wins and added them in. That was my mistake. Mistake.
Editorial correction, just so
please.
They don't come after us is all. That's all.
4, 8 and 4. 8 and 4 when you take the 6-game sked instead of 10 and 4. So that makes you 8 and 10. And then you go 6 and 3 the rest of the way. So 14 and 13.
No, 13 and 13. I just
14.
I'm not doing math. I just have baseball
June 1st.
reference up.
Today's June 1st.
Yeah,
Craig.
today's
June
June 1st.
God dang it.
New month.
Today's
We're 1-0
June 1st.
for 2069. 1-0.
You talked about organizational picadillos, Craig, and I just want to use this to transition. Gavin Sheets being injured and running into a wall is an organizational injury. That is an
100%.
injury. That is an organizational injury. It is not on Gavin
100%.
Sheets.
Honestly, that injury is on Jason Hayward. It's on Oscar Gonzalez.
AJ Preller.
It's on Connor Joe, AJ Preller, every single person who has failed left field that is forced Schilt to put Sheets in left field because it gives him his most viable lineup. And you're just praying, as I lovingly called him earlier, either last show or the show prior, he's a tank and a clank. He's going to hit tanks for you, but he's also going to rumble around left field like a tank. He's not going to turn very sharply. His turn radius is poor. Things are going to clank. He missed a ball before he slammed into the wall and almost killed himself today. And that's why Gavin Sheets is proving that he can't be the left fielder for the San Diego Padres. He's not the answer in left. Not because he's not a good player that you want in his lineup. You want him in the lineup, but he cannot be a fielding player for this team. He's got to be the DH for this team. He is the worst first baseman on the team, and he is easily the worst left fielder on the team. He's one of the worst left fielders in baseball.
I think Martin Maldonado might be a worse left fielder, truth be told.
Yeah, if you ran him out there. Austin Hedges, I mean,
why not? I mean, we're at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, so let's just maybe let this be a lesson. Hopefully, Gavin Sheets isn't out for a long period of time. The Padres said he was improving hour by hour, said that they were evaluating his facial contusion. That's from running his head into the wall. Plus, he had some wrist soreness and hip because he threw his hip into the wall as well. I'm not going to panic if Gavin Sheets goes on the injured list because he has been incredibly productive for this team, but it's the nature of baseball that somebody gets hurt, somebody else starts to hit. Maybe it's Xander's turn. Maybe it's Luis Camposano getting forced into the lineup. Maybe it's Iglesias getting forced into the lineup and succeeding.
Tirso Ornelas coming up.
Maybe. Yeah, they'd probably call him up if Sheets actually went on the injured list. They'd probably call him up. But, next man up mentality. But the reason he's hurt is because he was stumbling around out there in left field trying to be a hero. And you can't blame him for trying to be a hero. You can only blame the fact that he was in left field at all.
Yeah.
So let's stop that.
No, I mean, no notes, man.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I wanted to bring this up. Let me see if I can find the quote that I did this morning in the Discord because yes. Okay. This is my modest proposal for the show. And I want to say, just beginning this, that I understand that Randy Vasquez just didn't pitch well today. So the reductive retort to anything I'm about to say is, who gives a shit? He didn't pitch well anyway. All right. My friend for decades, Joe Sheehan, writes his, mostly daily newsletter. A lot of times I don't completely agree with him. Sometimes I really disagree with him. He wrote something today, and I just think these numbers are indisputable. And this is in defense of the strategy of the opener in Major League Baseball. The idea of using a reliever for the first inning of a game and having your starter come in to begin the second inning of the game. Okay. Quoting from Joe, and these are numbers going into today. All right. Here we go. There have been 869 games played this year. So that's 1,738 starts. 10 have seen a starting pitcher complete the game. 10. Another 17 have seen the starter go at least 8 innings. 13 teams have not had a pitcher go 8 frames yet. How about 7 innings for a starter? That's 191 out of 1,738 starts. So about 1 every 9 games. One team, Miami, has had not a single starter go 7 innings. Last year's leader for innings pitched was Logan Gilbert at 6 1/3 innings. A start in a league where 14 starters average 6 an outing. Nobody has averaged 7 innings a game since Sandy Alcantara in 2022. Nobody has averaged 8 innings a game since I was throwing the newsletter printed in parchment onto your front porch. The opener isn't a cause, it's an effect. That reliever is going to pitch. All you're doing is deciding when. From a leverage standpoint, from a third-time penalty standpoint, from a tactical standpoint, using that reliever in the first inning helps you win the game. The idea that it's somehow a sign of the apocalypse ignores that for starting pitching, the apocalypse happened long before openers did. I think that's brilliant stuff. And it's kind of relitigating something that we already know. But just the very idea that just for example, Randy Vasquez, the type of pitcher that this is perfect for. Randy Vasquez, so far this year, first time through the order, 244 average. Second time, 195. Third time, 353. Right? On base percentage, 333, 271, 488. So if the idea is that the third time penalty is going to murder this guy, Why would you let the third time penalty be against hitters 1, 2, 3, the players most specifically lined up to hurt you? O'Neal Cruz. How much better is Randy Vasquez's outing today if Yuki Matsui starts the game and pitches to O'Neal Cruz and the other two guys, and Vasquez starts off facing the number 4 hitter in the second? This is obviously an idealized world. Maybe it's the 5 hitter. But nonetheless, that Cruz is down the road for Randy Vasquez. He can settle in on the middle of the Pirates order. And to me, and again, Joe wrote about this, the counter arguments are farcical because they're like, we're killing the modern starter. No, you would never have Logan Webb have an opener. That'd be moronic. You would never have Nick Pivetta or Dylan Cease or Michael King have an opener. That'd be stupid. But your below average starters.
Yeah.
I see you smile. Matt Waldron should have an opener. He should have a left-handed opener. And Randy Vasquez should
be the opener.
Nah, because it's too random. No. It's too random.
And this is why I didn't like you using Yuki Matsui as an example. You would have Adrian Morejon as your opener.
Morejon, yeah. He could, Morejon could be an opener, absolutely. The Cubs did this Saturday with Drew Pomeranz.
Yes, with
who,
Ben
by
Brown.
the way, is,
yes.
Drew Pomeranz pitched a scoreless first inning. Ben Brown came in and he threw 6 shutout innings. And that's the formula. And I truly believe those 1 or 2 wins you're talking about with lineup optimization, Raphie, I think there's 1 to 2 wins to be found this year in not letting Randy Vasquez and Steven Kolick start games, but instead having them start the second inning of games. I'd say anyone on the depth chart below Pivetta should have a wrong-handed opener. Kyle Hart, I mean, God forbid, but if we ever had to start his desiccated remains again, I would much rather have Sean Reynolds start the game and pitch into the middle of the lineup and then turn things over to Hart for the home runs.
They're called desiccated ashes.
Management.
I think it's actually the other way around. I think it's
I know. It was
Did I just ruin the joke? I ruined the joke.
It's a poker face joke, and Raphie had to explain it. Raphie.
Craig, I was the Waldron comment is just simply because theoretically, if Waldron threw 80% knuckleballs, he could pitch twice a week, and go 2 or 3 innings every time, and then you're basically like, are you hoping to get those 6 innings a week in one go, in which he might not have it that day, or are you trying to get them 3 innings at a time, twice a week, where theoretically he could be more effective? That's the thinking behind Waldron as an opener. But you're right in the sense of you would pair Matsui or Morejon with Vasquez, or you would pair Reynolds with Kyle Hart, or you want to have an opposite-handed, ideally potentially opposite strength as well. So like a power pitcher against, lining up against the finesse one, so that other teams can't optimize their lineup and play their platoon splits because, well, you're going to be facing a righty in the first go. So are you throwing that, are you going to bat your pro lefty lineup when you have Sean Reynolds up against you? I don't necessarily know. I was mostly just stroking my beard as you were saying this, Craig, for our audio only listeners, because I'm just like, yes, let it flow through you, Craig.
Yeah,
the argument against it is I don't like it. I don't like it because it changes a thing that I know. That's really the only argument against it.
There was a commercial back in the day, a bunch of cavemen, and then one of the cavemen wears pants, and they're like, hey, check this out, guys. And one of the cavemen goes, I fear change. I will wear bushes. And he runs off holding, the big old thrush around his crotch. And that's very much what it is. I'm an old man at this, and I completely agree with Craig with what Joe Sheehan wrote.
Yeah. It makes so much sense.
If you guys watched The Last Dance on Netflix, which was like, again, one of my favorite, documentary series ever for anything of the Chicago Bulls run, it's so jarring to have these like build up to like these like, crazy games, and you're just like hearing all these narratives and whatever, and then it's like final score, Bulls 88, Jazz 82, and it's like, why? Because the way you played basketball was down by the post, and it was like power and gritty and everything, and now people throw up threes constantly. Why? Because 3 points are really fucking valuable. And it's like, just to not do it is to ignore the fact that there is a 3-pointer available for you to shoot and score. And so again, it's, why wouldn't you do this? It's just because, well, we have a narrative around starting pitchers, and there's literally like an American hero myth that's tied to the idea of a pitcher who throws a complete game. And for that reason alone, teams are leaving wins on the table. So I was stroking my beard, Craig.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I'm just saying stuff like you've said 2 years ago and people have said for you, but it really hit home to me, both reading that, seeing the stats on pitchers this year. What are we really chasing? If you want to regain 7 and 8 and 9 inning starting pitchers, you have to fundamentally change the game. You have to have
from youth baseball up.
Yeah, from youth baseball up 100%. But at the big league level, you'd need to have a speed limit.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to have every pitch over 92 be a ball. You know, like, I'm not even kidding.
God.
Like, you would have to have some stupid speed limit. You'd probably have to have a roster restriction that you could have no more than 10 pitchers on your staff so that you were forced into it. You know, people would, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. The things that would have to happen would fundamentally change the game more than people want, because the game evolves, and the game has evolved to where it is now. It's not 1982. You know, the players that could live in the big leagues back then couldn't be in the big leagues now. No. So many of them would just have the bats blown out of their hands, and they would never make it in the big leagues now. So it's a different world. The Padres could win a couple more games on this road trip, potentially, by making a solid strategic adjustment and saying, you know what, Randy Vasquez, cool beans, good, useful player for our team. We don't need to pretend like he's Dave Stieb in training. You know, he's not. He's not going to start throwing 8 innings and 9 innings all the time. He's 2 times through the order. It's a wild ride. Every once in a while it's good. Sometimes it's shit. But you could do a thing to just make it easier for him. Why don't we eliminate the top 3 to 4 hitters in the lineup the first time through? Let's just do that. Start in the middle and see how you do. It's a straightforward idea. And it would make so much sense. Okay. Let's just look ahead. We're at the end of the show, and we've talked about this gauntlet. It's 4 straight in San Francisco. Here's a fun fact, because, you know, we've talked about the Padres offense. Padres offense was not good, right? 24th in the league in OPS in the month of May. Team that's right around them has to be, I don't know the number, but the Giants have to be there, or maybe a little bit below. Did you know the Giants are now 14 straight games scoring 4 or fewer runs?
No way.
Yes, I did hear that one in the national pods.
Yeah, the last time that they scored more than 4 runs was May 16th against the Athletics. And they had a little pocket. Honest to God, guys, they had a little pocket where they scored 9, 7, and 10 runs. Before that, 4 of their previous 5 games, they scored 1 run or 3. And then after that little pocket, it's 1, 3, 1, 3, 4, 4, 0, 3, 1, 1, 3, 2, 0, 4. Those are the runs totals. And that's against Kansas City, Washington, Detroit, and Miami. Detroit can throw Scooble and some hot arms at you. Those other teams aren't great shakes for pitching. So the Giants' offense is not very good. They're coming down to earth. They're 7 games over 500. They're a scrappy little team, but I believe the Padres are a better team than the Giants. And with a fully healthy, fully optimized team, I would fully expect the Padres to go in and kind of put the beating to San Francisco. Now, I don't know. San Francisco's a tough place to play, and the wind can swirl and whatever the fuck. But I will say this. I think we will see 4 games with low run totals. I think we're going to see 3-2, 4-2, 2-0. Maybe somebody gets to 5. But I think these are going to be classic, tense, cold, windy, nail-biting Giants games.
Sure. The Padres are going to see Logan Webb. They're going to see Kyle Harrison, who is great his last turn. Landon Roop, and then Robbie Ray, who is surprisingly
undefeated,
been fantastic after getting traded to the Giants last year. And they are going to throw up Stephen Kolek, and then
probably Ryan Bergert on Tuesday. Kevin Acee reporting that Matt Waldron's rehab outing ended, and he was officially optioned to AAA at the end of the rehab outing. Now, he pitched Friday. So Saturday, Sunday, Monday, that'd be 3 days rest. Bergert pitched Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 6 days. So it's going to be Bergert, and Waldron is maybe a start away. Maybe he is in the rotation against the Dodgers. The week to follow, or the last game of the Milwaukee series.
Yeah, Jason R.R. Martinez has already projected him to start the last game against Brandon Woodruff, who would be that would be his first start in like 2 years.
Well, wouldn't that be a reunion of sorts?
Wow, W-men at it.
Yeah, huge trip. Milwaukee is not a team to ignore. Those trips, especially when you're coming off an NL West team, that's often where the Padres have gone to Milwaukee and really stumbled, is like coming off of a San Francisco or a Colorado and going in there and being like, oh, well, now we got the Brewers. And of course, the Dodgers are waiting right around the bend. Now, the other team is the Diamondbacks. And I don't know if Padres fans caught this, but today, highest paid starter in the offseason? Highest paid free agent starter in the offseason?
I think he might have beat Fried. I can't remember. I think so.
I think he did beat Fried, certainly on an AAV basis. I just don't know if with years.
No, I think he got 230, and I think Fried got 215.
Well, he's dead. So, yeah. Corbin Burns threw some pitches, and then a helicopter came down and just it was it. No, but his arm is dead. He threw about 4 innings today. His pitches started in the mid-90s. It dropped down to the low 90s, after which he threw a pitch, saw it hit into the outfield, turned, cursed, waved in the trainer and the manager, looked him in the eyes and said, "My elbow's gone. It's dead."
Oh, no.
So, pretty decent chance, and I'm not like happy about it or anything, but pretty decent chance that Corbin Burns
that dude's
is
paid.
Not going to. I mean, you're right. He gets the money.
Corbin Burns' family is where they live. He's good to go. I'm stoked he won't be pitching against anybody for a long, long time. That's great news for baseball competitors.
Just look at all the money the Diamondbacks the last 2 years have invested in their rotation.
Oh,
Erod hurt again. Jordan Montgomery, the big, just $25 million and another one down the drain. And now the biggest pay of all, Burns, whose numbers and peripherals had dropped 3 straight years going into his free agency. And I remember very specifically, we said, not like a lot of people said it, but it's like, my official opinion of Corbin Burns was no. Don't touch him. Team that signs him is going to regret it. And the Diamondbacks are clearly regretting it. The 3 games under 500 Diamondbacks.
And all those deals are going to prevent them from extending Zach Gallen,
who's 3-7. Like,
yeah,
he's
still a damn good pitcher.
And what's so interesting is I have a good friend of mine who's from Phoenix, and I was like, when the day Corbin Burns signed, I texted her and I was like, how do you feel? Like, whatever. And she was like, I still have Madison Bumgarner trauma So I,
Oh,
you know what I mean?
no.
So talk about like a team investing in pitching and it not going well. I mean, this is a track record of
Greinke.
guys.
Think about Greinke.
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. On the note of the sad news about Corbin Burns that we're all very broken up about, I put this in the menu, but and you guys haven't seen this yet, but there is some potentially positive news about Michael King, because in the post game today in the press scrum, Marty Caswell asked Michael King if he was going to pitch again this year, and he proceeded, and you can go on Instagram or YouTube, wherever you want to see it, he proceeded to laugh in her face and say, "Of course, that's a clown question, bro." A la Bryce Harper.
He pulled Harper's card?
He pulled Harper's card right on her in the most dismissive way I have ever seen Michael King address another person. And it's nothing, but it's also, to me, like the best sign we've seen out of Michael King in a couple weeks. So good for us.
Thank goodness. We need everything we can get from Michael King. Because the other thing that's got to happen, I think we're getting toward the end of the show here, but I just want to say it again. Is Dylan Cease just going to cost himself $85 million purely on performance this year and just 4.8 his way through this desultory free agent season? Or is he ever going to lock it the fuck into gear? Because even when AC tried to write kind of nicely about him today and go, well, he had that 3-game stretch. Padres lost all those games. Like, he finds ways to lose games. He finds ways to put his team behind, or when he's ahead, to turn a lead into a loss. Like, I'm becoming I'm not a Dylan Cease hater, but like, if the Padres really want to go the places they think they're going to go, part of their idea of who they are, identity as a team, is that Dylan Cease is a dominant starter, that he's one of the toughest starters to face and to beat in the league. And the reality is he is not. He is an easy walk. Like he is bad Blake Snell is what he is right now.
Yeah.
4 innings, 3 runs. Yeah, he struck out some guys. It's not aesthetically pleasing. It's not doing the job. And the Padres with 22 and 23 and the issues they have, one thing that will get them over the line and get them to exactly where they want to go is 5 dominant Dylan Cease starts in the month of June. And gosh darn it, he owes the club that. He doesn't owe him anything. They're going to pay him, blah, blah, blah. I know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But in terms of like what he needs
what they're
that
counting
too.
on him.
Yes, they need him, and he needs it too. So It's like, it's damn time for Dylan Cease to stop being a dithering dilettante out there, dithering dilettante Dylan, okay, and become dominant Dylan, not dithering dilettante Dylan, dominant Dylan.
Yeah.
It's got to happen.
Triple D's, too much.
Yeah.
Too much.
Only,
can't handle
only
it.
2 Ds.
And that's the thing that Ace Man also wrote about today. He has abandoned the heralded 2-seamer that he worked on the off season, as well as the changeup he worked on the off season. They are out. He's not going to throw them anymore, which makes him a 2-pitch pitcher, which, could go a long way. I want to point out that I know Dylan Cease finds ways to lose games, but you know who finds ways to win games? And the Padres have won 5 of the last 6 of this man who should probably have an opener has started. Randy Vasquez. 5 of the last 6, baby.
Good luck, Charm.
I'm just going to counter, because I think disagreement is good for this podcast, and say that
sure.
Dylan Cease right now has a 3.31 FIP against a 4.66 ERA. So he's got a massive gulf between his FIP and his ERA.
So fix the gulf. The FIP gulf.
He's walking guys.
Good thing. It's a good thing FIP is a wild card tiebreaker.
Okay. He's walking guys at the same clip as Nick Pivetta and Michael King. He's striking out guys at a higher clip than Nick Pivetta and Michael King. The only thing that's different between Dylan Cease and Nick Pivetta and Michael King is that Dylan Cease has a 329 BABIP allowed, and Nick Pivetta has a 260, and Michael King has a 250. So I'm going to just make the argument that Dylan Cease should not be doing anything differently than he's doing now. And theoretically, if I'm going to live by this, I'm going to die by this. The baseball gods will grant bounty on him because there is a good pitcher there, obviously, and he just hasn't been getting the results. And much in the same way
Vasquez.
I was just going to say, much in the same way that Randy Vasquez has been a bad pitcher. Randy Vasquez has not been a good pitcher this year. And he is a 350. I don't know what his ERA is now. I'd have to go to another website. Going into today, it was 358. Randy Vasquez has not been at 350. Now, yeah. He's at 399. Yeah. Okay, he's still sub 4 technically. Randy Vasquez has not been a sub 4 ERA pitcher. We all know that. But
the numbers tell us otherwise, Raphie.
The numbers tell us otherwise. Yes, 100%.
5 of the 100%. Last 6 games.
Dubs.
So
maybe he's a vibes vampire and he's just sucking out all of Dylan's vibes.
He's got to figure out the beard shit. Don't shave the beard and then grow the beard back. That's
true.
Fucking that's irritating to me. Last thing, we kind of skated by it. There's no pitcher that I want to see pitch more for the Padres in Oracle, AT&T, Pac Bell Park than Nick Pivetta. Like, that is a match made in heaven. He was the perfect person for the Giants to sign, and they didn't, and we did it, and that's fucking awesome. Because the fly balls are going to die in the San Francisco night, and we're going to be the beneficiaries of that.
Yeah, that could be the true difference. The other difference is going to be the Giants just don't have the offensive talent that the Padres do. And I understand that the Padres might go up there and get shut out 3 straight games. I don't know what's going to happen. This team is capable of droughts, but the Giants 14 games in a row, 4 runs or fewer, and only like 3 times getting to 4 in that whole run. They're not a good offense. They're not going to be a good offense. They're going to be a bottom tier offense at the end of the year. It's time to go take advantage. I want to see the Padres play their best. It's go time. It's June. It's gauntlet. It's go time. I want to see Tatis lock in. I want to see this team play their best. I think they're going to rise to the occasion, and I'm looking for a big week in San Francisco with post-game shows, excitement, and at least 2 Padres wins, and I'm hoping 3 or 4.
I want to see Jose Iglesias get a start at second base against Robbie
Absolutely. Ray. Well, if Sheets is out, it's going to force somebody into the lineup, and I'd like to see Iglesias get hot for this team. I think he's a player that could get hot. I don't think that Diaz will ever get hot. I don't think Lockridge will ever get hot. There's certain guys who's not going to get hot, but I think that Iglesias could. And therefore, I wouldn't mind seeing him play 3-4 games, but hopefully Kevin Sheets comes back. I mean, dude, just for his sake as well as the club.
Best case contusion does not mean concussed. That's kind of all of it, I think.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, gentlemen, before we lock this one up?
Let's go, Fernando Tatis Jr., man. Get that ball in the air. Keep doing your thing, and then take over a series here in the next week.
Yeah, Tatis has a June that he normally has, coupled with Manny being hot, coupled with Arise not bunting and not statue taking. I mean, this top of the lineup. The places they'll go. That's all I'll say. And go Padres.
Yeah, go Padres. Tatis, recognize breaking pitches down and in. Please recognize them. I think that's the first step to him getting right. Dylan wrote about that, just the big hole that opened up to breaking balls low and in.
I disagree. He's got to hit a fastball. He's got to start hitting fastballs up because he hasn't had a home run for a fastball since April 12th, I want to say. Everything else has been on breaking pitches.
Okay, well, we fixed him twice now. Fastballs up and take the breaking ball slow. Hit the fastball up, take the breaking ball low. Fernando, we did it. Okay. June 1st edition of Padres Hot Tub done. Patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub. If you're on the free feed and you made it to the end, you obviously love this show. Please give us a 5-star review. Please give us a kind written review. Even better, it's $5, man. Patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub. Try it for a month. See how much you like it. We'll be back with post-game shows for our patrons, group therapy for our patrons, and next week with another Padres Hot Tub for everybody. Toda la gente. Go Padres.